Hello and welcome to the Underdogs Pod here at Hudson Grill Midtown. Will Hopkins filling in for Massimo Ballou here with two distinguished guests. I've got Justin Hanover to my left, Jennifer Taylor to my right. A little bit about them. Justin, a proud Emory grad at Atlanta United, 2 PA announcer, sports talk radio host at 680 The Fan, been in Atlanta sports and soccer for many, many years. And over here, Jennifer Taylor, a Footy Mob board of director member and a founding member of Footy Mob back in 2017 when Atlanta United came to life. Footy Mob, one of the official Atlanta United supporter groups, and their goal is to grow and diversify the soccer fan base in Atlanta, which will definitely be a key part of the World Cup and the matches in Atlanta, diversifying that soccer fan base. But I'll give y'all the chance to say anything else about your career in Atlanta and soccer as a whole. Justin, I'll start with you.
Well, I've done it forever. Been with the Atlanta Silverbacks, PA announcing, doing their play-by-play with Atlanta SC when the Silverbacks rebranded. Also, as you mentioned, with Atlanta United 2, doing their PA announcing. And I've been in sort of the Atlanta circle forever, and I'm old unlike you. So I saw the 1994 World Cup here, and I've got some opinions, and hopefully this year will go better.
Yeah, we'll definitely ask about the 94 World Cup. Y'all will have to teach me some things.
So I'm Jennifer, and I have been an Atlanta United supporter since the inaugural season, part of Footy Mob, part of other supporter groups and the collective, just, trying to build community. And that's the thing that I love about soccer in this town is it really is fundamentally about the community and making this town a better place for everybody because of soccer. I actually got into it in 2014 hardcore because my Costa Ricans went on a miracle run to the quarterfinals and I got suckered in because my whole work world just shut down every single time they played. It was kind of insane. So I was like, I need to be a part of that. And then, of course, we're getting the team here and that's how it is. So now I help to coordinate events in our tailgate, and I am also the co-host of another podcast that hits on things from the fan perspective. We've recently expanded to cover more of the women's side of the game. So we have a whole separate division. We're working on covering Decatur FC these days.
And covering the women's side is important in Atlanta with the team coming here in a couple years. And a little bit about me, normally Massimo hosting this pod. He is in Mexico City covering the World Cup, which is a super cool experience. For me, I'm a play-by-play sports broadcaster. I've done soccer at multiple levels, NCAA for both men and women, including NCAA tournament matches, as well as Apotheos FC at the USL 2 level. I host my own podcast, Dogs Hoops, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts during the college basketball season, which I'll get going again just before we know it. And then I also help out at 680 The Fan behind the scenes with their Braves coverage, but happy to be filling in here on the Underdogs Pod. And we'll go ahead and get into it. Like you were talking about, the Atlanta soccer landscape, so much of the World Cup is about what's happening off the pitch. What would you say is going to make Atlanta a special host city?
So I think the fact that we have two really big, well-coordinated fan fests going on, and the access is relatively easy. We obviously have the big FIFA fan fest that's going on at Centennial Park, which I understand the capacity control, but you do need to request tickets for it. But also the programming that they've put together at the Decatur Watch Fest is really, really exciting. I know American Outlaws, which is the supporter group for the United States men's team and the women's team, all things U.S., they're going to be doing some events down there. Another of the supporter groups is hosting Pride House events all over town. There's, I think, 3 or 4 different locations where there's going to be safe spaces for anybody coming in that, wants to ensure that they're feeling inclusive and seen and taken care of. So there's a lot of that going on. There's so many things, different, bar programs, watch parties, things like that. The thing that I'm super intrigued about is the Casa España. They're doing over in the Summerhill neighborhood because we have 2 matches with Spain. So they're doing a whole big, celebration and watch event with Spanish themed music and stuff like that. So that sounds like it'll be really fun. It's just, going to be a nonstop party for a month and a half.
Absolutely. And talking about those Spain matches, those will probably be 2 of the most anticipated matches in Atlanta. Talking about the actual matches in Mercedes-Benz Stadium and your experience being here in Atlanta, especially in the soccer scene, what are your expectations for those crowds in Atlanta, both for the planned group stage matches and for the knockout matches where we don't know who's going to be playing?
Well, it's world class. I mean, I've been in that venue hosting Atlanta Falcons in-game stuff. It's an incredible venue, one of the best in the world, literally, not just saying that, it really is. So I expect nothing but absolute first class, no matter who's in there. If it's Spain, if it's Cape Verde, if it's Turkey, whoever's in there, it will be run as competently and as incredibly as it can be.
And what are your expectations from the crowds at those games?
It'll be great. I mean, we see Jennifer C. She's in there all the time with Atlanta United. This city is a mecca for soccer. It's become that. It was that with the Silverbacks here at Silverbacks Park with just 3,000 people. It has become what Atlanta United is now with 50, 60, 70,000 people. So I expect nothing but absolute first class in that venue. I'm sure the people that are running it will take on the persona of the building per se, and I think it's going to be absolutely incredible.
And I know you said you're looking forward to the comfort of your own couch. Jennifer, are you planning to go to any
Old.
matches at Mercedes-Benz Stadium?
We're waiting and seeing. We're gonna wait. We're playing the waiting game because
Don't blame you.
the pricing is what the pricing is. But I was actually on the resale site today and I saw some even slightly lower pricing for the DR Congo Uzbekistan match, which is interesting because Uzbekistan's actually based here and doing their whole training here. And so if I can get in the door a little bit more reasonably, I'm gonna
What
try
is
to get-
reasonable though? What
My
what's the
benchmark is
update?
under $90. I don't care where I
Okay.
sit. I would go in for because I went to the
Has
women's
it come close to that? Because last I checked, it wasn't near that.
on the FIFA resale site today. I was seeing Uzbekistan, DR Congo, all in with fees for 144 for
Wow,
the
okay.
300. So it's come down quite a bit. And I was at the 2023 Women's World Cup in Australia, New Zealand. And let me tell you, from an atmosphere perspective, the one I really want to get to is Morocco and Haiti. Because I know that those two clubs are going to really bring it from just an overall fan environment and hearing how supported those clubs are. This isn't to say Spain and
Right.
Congo, especially the African nations are always fun to
And
watch.
I can attest to that. I was actually in Morocco during AFCON.
Oh, wow.
And I was not there during the final, but I was there during the end of the group stage and the beginning of the knockout. And I was actually lucky enough to go to a match, Ivory Coast, Cameroon. And yeah, they love their soccer. I was able to watch some Morocco matches in bars and things like that. They love Morocco. So I'm also looking forward to seeing how the Moroccan fans turn out here. We've talked about Atlanta during the World Cup. What do y'all see from Atlanta after the World Cup, the potential impacts? Because that's what a lot of a World Cup is about, growing the game in that country.
Well, I think we're there. And I don't think it's any 1996 Olympics, oh, what Atlanta's going to become. I think we're there. I think we are the gold standard, truly. So what are we going to become? I don't think it could be any
From a
higher than
soccer
it is.
perspective also.
They've been saying for 40 years, soccer's on the rise, soccer's on the come since I was a kid playing. That ship has sailed, in my opinion. I think it's a good soccer playing nation. It's not going to ever get to the level we thought it would in the 1980s. It's just that's my opinion right now on where this country can be, because I think we have too many other sports. And that's a conversation for another day. But I think anytime you can host a World Cup like this, certainly will bring the pomp and circumstances, certainly will bring goodwill, will bring new fans, will get people engaged. I don't know though how high this country can go because of baseball and football and hockey and everything. But it's nothing but a positive though in the end.
Do you see Atlanta United attendance maybe going up after the World Cup because more people are just getting into soccer?
I would love to say yes, but I think you have enough engaged and knowledgeable fans in town that they see what the product is with Atlanta United right now. And I don't know that an expectation of a World Cup bump is realistic, right? We all know what the product is. As you said, like the stadium is phenomenal, the experience is phenomenal, but you got to match it on the pitch, right? And right now we haven't been seeing that, unfortunately. So in that sense, I think you'll get the same people. You may get a few more casuals, but I don't know that you'll get any huge jump in numbers and interest like we saw after 2014 or after even 2018.
But that's not a bad thing.
No.
Because it shows we're already here. We're not a lowly place that's just starting out, in which case your theory, I think, would be spot on. This will be a big bump. Atlanta's here. There's not much higher to go. Maybe there'll be a little bit of a post bump, but in reality, we're at such a high level, I don't think it's going to explode all of a sudden.
And I think also what we'll see now with the U.S. national teams being based here, more hosting of events now that they've proven they can transition the pitch and it's not, the incredibly time-consuming effort that, it has been, but you'll see more Gold Cups, Nations League, things along those lines. The 2031 Women's World Cup is pretty much a foregone conclusion, and it's very likely Atlanta will get the final for that. So I think where the growth potential is primarily on the women's side and just getting more girls and women out there playing, which we're already seeing with more WPSL and semi-pro. It's just, the metrics and the pyramid structure isn't the same for the women's game, so there's not quite as many opportunities there.
Gotcha. And before we get into the matches, a big storyline before the World Cup is who's going to be on these rosters. And there was definitely controversy. Brazil, England had some huge controversy. In the U.S., people had some complaints. No Diego Luna, no Tanner Tessman. Were there any names that jumped out to you, whether it's from the US, England, any country where you thought, some of these I could see the coach going one way or another, but he messed up on this one?
I would say with Pochettino, yes, he's got 7 guys that can play center back. I mean, it sounds wild. It's crazy how you don't have the midfielders. But truthfully, who am I to second guess a guy that's coach and has the pedigree that he has? So I'm going to trust it. I'm going to go with it. I think he's got a squad that can do well. I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit. But yes, there were some questions there. But aren't there always questions
Yeah.
when you fill out a roster this way? And as for other teams, I mean, Brazil, every year you have a question. Brazil always has guys that aren't fit or too old that they always keep down. So I don't know the other squads as much, but I do think the U.S. probably he could have gone safer. I'm frankly happy he didn't, and maybe he's going to go for it a little bit more now. So I think it's a good thing.
And I think keeping all those center backs definitely points to starting 3 of them.
But
and
that's
playing
not
with
his
those wing
style,
backs.
which is the irony. The irony is a high pressing team
Absolutely.
that's not parking the bus.
That's what we saw at Tottenham, for
right.
sure.
So I'm excited to see how he's going to blend his style with what he thinks his personnel is. So, we'll see. To be determined.
Yeah.
I was still grumpy for Diego. I felt like he earned the spot,
Talented,
and
yeah.
and he had played so well in literally every match leading up to the selection. So I was a little bummed for him, but I also, again, like you said, I can't really question these people so much because I don't really know.
Yeah.
I'm a vibes girl. I like the vibe. I like the energy that a Diego Luna
Yeah.
brings. I like the energy that a Cole Palmer brings to Europe, and I really maybe speculate he and Thomas had something going on at Chelsea because he didn't really
I
blossom
didn't even
at Chelsea
think about that.
until Tuchel left. So, outside of that, I mean, I'm just excited to see some of the world's best players really turn it on because they always do for club and country.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about Luna is he was used in so much marketing for the U.S. And I was actually at a United States soccer event, and I asked, how do you market? It's not like a team sport where you just have your players. You only have your players for a couple weeks, and then they're gone, and then you can have all new players. And they said it's hard, and you can't act as if they're on the team, but at the same time, you kind of just do for a couple weeks. And he probably thought he was going to make it, and
I want to
definitely
point something
unfortunate.
out really interesting because there were 2 really great ad drops. I don't know if you saw them. There was the Fox Soccer one where they had the "Do you believe in miracles?" that ended with Mike Ruzioni said, "Why don't you believe in miracles?" It was great. That's got Diego Luna all over
Does
it.
he know who Michael Ruzioni is?
Yes.
Okay.
Come on.
You
Come
work
on.
for a sports.
You know me. That would be sad.
I mean, you're a little young.
you know, my
friends with your
dad.
dad.
My dad would make sure I know who Mike
All right,
Ruzioni
all right.
is.
So, but it's a great ad. But the very beginning sequence of it, you can very clearly see Diego Luna's head in it. And I was like, oh, it would be perfect if he was on the team. And then the big Nike drop that they
Cole
just
Palmer.
did had Cole Palmer all over it. So, clearly a lot of this stuff had to be built before rosters were finalized.
Yeah.
So, what else can you do with it? But it's interesting. And also I'm sure people feel little ways, and I wonder if these players are even compensated for being part of this, that their images are being used in, but they aren't actually on the squads. And how do you feel about that?
Yeah, and the thing I'll say about the Cole Palmer one, by the way, I'm not getting paid to say this, but if you haven't seen that Nike ad, you absolutely have to watch it. It's unbelievable. But it would have been one thing if there were a few players that weren't included, but from my watching it, Cole Palmer was the only one
Yeah.
in the entire ad that wasn't in it. So, yeah, people are going to get left out. England had more questions with, why are you taking Jordan Henderson over Adam Wharton? There are these questions that the managers are probably never going to answer, so we'll see if the players that they choose end up answering it for them. So now we'll get into the actual soccer. The biggest question, with obviously 3 countries hosting, Mexico, US, and Canada, but here we are in Atlanta. What are the expectations for the US men's national team? Either of you can start.
I'm bullish on this. I am. I mean, I've seen a lot of negativity. I've seen years of us underachieving. I've seen the U.S. talk down a lot in the world of soccer. One of these years we have to break through. We have too many athletes. This is the so-called golden generation of sorts. We have to we got to a quarter, obviously, in 2002. And that was the handball against Germany that we should have gotten the goal to level it. I just think we've got too much talent. Pulisic, with Balogun, with all these McKinney, with all these guys, Tyler Adams, Jedi. You saw the goal the other day.
Yeah.
I mean,
World Day.
Serginho.
Serginho Dest. At some point, as a soccer playing nation, we have to show we're better than what we've been for the past 30, 40 years, forever. So I think, why not at home? Can't this be the year we bust through? We get to a semi, we knock the door down. Could we fail miserably? Yes, because past history has shown that. But could this be the year on our home soil where this generation takes us further than we've ever been, I'm going to be bullish and say I think it can be.
Hey, why not be
Yeah,
optimistic?
yeah.
I'm a big believer in not talking about Bruno, where we don't speak things. I'm a Tottenham girl, so when we talk about it, it goes horribly Spursy.
Hey, I'm a Tottenham guy, so
Okay, so cheers. You know what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
we don't talk about it, but if I was going to talk about it, I am also very amped up on the US this year. And again, I think that's because the talent pool is now spread out. You have more teams coming in. You've definitely got some big names that have some serious question marks. Portugal, Argentina, those squads are aging. How, will they be able to hold up? Brazil is always a wild card. England, I don't know if is as deep as everybody likes to think they are. So
I don't think they are.
there's opportunity here if the players are willing to rise to the moment. And I think you have enough leadership and experience now in that room to hope that they will be capable of rising to the moment. And home soil does weird things for people. Like it didn't really play out in 2022, but like in every year, every cycle prior, the home field definitely meant something. So I feel like, why not us?
What does success look like to you?
I think getting to the quarters or the semis would be a really good getting out of the early knockout stage would be a really good step forward.
And a reminder, there are 48 teams, so the first knockout stage is with 32, which normally that's where the whole tournament starts, and the first knockout stage with 16. And as you said, the U.S. hasn't advanced past the round of 16 since 2002.
Yeah, and look at our draw. I mean, it will be a disaster if we don't get out of the group. Put it that way.
I would say
an absolute disaster.
the expectation should be to win the group.
The expectation should be to win, and if you don't win, obviously you have to get out. There's no doubt about that. I mean, it's Paraguay, which you should be better than. It's Australia, which you should be better than. It's Turkey, which you may not be better than, but you're at home and you should be as good as them. So
And
right
they still
there,
struggled to qualify.
right. It's not a great nation, but they're at least
They fared well in the Euros.
you're seated as a one because you're at home. So you
Yeah.
must get out. If you don't get out of the group, you talk about the rise. Well, you don't get out of the group, you're coming down. I mean, that's a real negative point. So you get out of the group, you get to the round of 32. You should be playing a team that is not exactly France or Spain. You should be fine. You get that 1 seed or that 2 seed, you should be okay. Then suddenly you're in a group of 16, and who knows what can happen. But again, I feel good. I feel we're due. I think the law of averages alone, home soil, the talent level that we have now, I think this is a good year to get behind what we're putting out there on the pitch. And again, it's all systems go. You've got a coach that has been there, that has been in Europe. I mean, if not now, when?
That's a great point. And y'all keep talking about home soil. I was not alive in 1994. I'm not going to ask either of you how old you were then or how old you are now or any of that. But what are some of the things that come to mind when I bring up 1994?
One thing with me, and it was tragic. It was the whole Colombia Andres Escobar own goal. When I look back to those years, and I'll say my age, I just graduated from college. I was in New York at the time. I VHS, you probably don't even know what that is, but every single match of that World Cup. I had it
Wow.
taped. It was in my basement. I just cleaned it out about 6 months ago. A bunch of the tapes. I held the American ones, I think, unless my kids did something with it. But that was the moment that I will always remember. That was the oh my gosh, what happened that year when Escobar knocked it in his own goal. And then a week later, you heard the tragedy of him getting murdered. That to me, unfortunately, was the tone and tenor of what I remember from that year.
I remember the kits. I remember the crazy like big baggy kits and this I was in high school. So my memory of 90s soccer is actually more with the Olympics because I remember that final game at UGA, right? Which I've heard Atlanta United is going to play a tribute match to recognize or it might be the twos, I can't remember, but they're going to play. No,
The
I'm sorry.
UGA
is going to
women's
the
team.
women's team. They're going to play 2 matches at
Try to break the NCAA women's soccer attendance record.
which I think is really, really cool that they're honoring that's where women's soccer debuted in this country on a, kind of a higher level. But I remember, I believe it's Nigeria that upset Germany in the final of the 96 Olympics and like the world going nuts about it because I was working down at Centennial Park and like every time there was a big, event that happened, the whole park just would explode and you could see what was going on. So when that match was going on and that happened, it was just absolute insanity. People didn't know they didn't know what hit them. Like, how is that even possible that some little team from nowhere, which, goes back to what you were saying about, anything can happen on home soil. You just never know. That's why you play the matches.
Absolutely.
They
Well,
were so fun, those Super Eagles in
Yeah.
Nigeria, the flair they play with. Love watching those African nations play. So great.
Great kits too. Like, always fun to sport the African nation kits because they're never uncreative with their designs, right?
And one other thing, Will, I want to say, you look back again before your time, but the Eric Winaldas of the world, the Alexi Lalases, Marcelo Balboas, Paul Caligiuri, the way they played for their country, and you may remember this, Jennifer, the passion they had, we haven't seen that in a long time. We've seen guys play, for the back of the jersey versus the front here in America for a lot of times. It's like they crap out and they don't care and they go play, they go their own way, go to professional. Now I get the feeling and the hope that we're going to have this generation getting back to the roots of the Winalders and the Lallases and Tony Miolas and all those guys back in the day. And I think if they can bring back that energy, I think that will really help lead to what I'm hoping is the level of play as well.
and I think you've seen that from a few players. We've seen it from McKennie against Mexico. We saw it with Luna. He really had that mentality. But I think that what you're talking about when the U.S. failed to qualify for the World Cup, I think that was an issue that people, how much do they care?
Absolutely.
And I think that it's grown over the last 8 years into them caring more and more about the badge right here. And hopefully that shows, especially on home soil.
I think Pulisic having been on the pitch for that match in Trinidad
Yeah.
in 22, I think that is a memory that is going to, he was what, 18, 19? He was a kid when that happened. Like, you don't lose something like that. That stays with you. And you want, an athlete at that level, I think, wants to put a team on his shoulders and carry it. And it's a big weight, but I think you're right. There's definitely signs that this team gets that.
And he's been struggling. I mean, don't sugarcoat it. Christian Pulisic has not been the Captain America in the last 6 months. I think suddenly he comes back here, and I think he's going to reverse that, and we're going to see the Christian Pulisic of old. I really believe that.
I feel like there were signs with the last two friendlies. Like, he was
Think so.
finally, the pace
the
was better, the
assist,
vision was
yep.
better. It's like, oh, hey, it's here. All this build up, right? They've been pitching this for 6, 8 years now. This is the target date. Well, the date you circled on the calendar, it's knocking on the door.
Yeah, absolutely. He looks great against Germany, that's for sure. Gonna get into some hot topics, some things that might be a little divisive. Nothing too serious. It's just soccer after all. First one, playing surface. So obviously, all these stadiums, a lot of them normally turf, switching to grass. We've already seen some complaints from players, fans of other countries about it being uneven, bumpy, whatever it may be. How much do y'all think the playing surface really matters? One, for the quality of the game, but two, for the health of the players.
I think it's relative. I mean, I'm sure every playing surface is quality, right? They're not playing in a cow patch in Noonan, Georgia, right? Not to
Hopefully no
belittle
one gets
Noonan,
offended.
Georgia, but I mean, I think it's all relative. I think the pitch is going to be fine. I love grass. I mean, you can't beat grass. Obviously, the turf has gotten better over the years. It's not the plastic stuff they used to have. So I'm a grass guy. I think they should be on grass. You saw what Messi said last year with, I don't want to be on this turf. I want to play on grass. So the more grass, the better. I don't see that as being an issue. I assume every building will have a high quality, whatever they put down there, that the players will be fine with.
I will say, just having watched the grass evolve at the Benz this season, it's been kind of interesting. It's definitely been a little slicker than what I saw being played at Copa America and what we saw being played at Club World Cup last year. That said, I feel like in a lot of respects, people use, turf versus grass as an excuse. If you look at the statistics, the injury ratios are about the same now because the turf product has come up. I feel like it's just more of a mental thing, right? So, okay, if it gives you a mental advantage to play on grass, make it happen. If you can go both ways, as they say, I don't know that it's necessarily the biggest deal breaker for me as a fan. Come at me.
Yeah.
It was funny though the other day. I forget what I saw it on Twitter. I think where one of the teams were bouncing a ball,
Yes.
and they put it high, and it didn't bounce high, and it was sort of like, oh no, what's going to happen here? I mean, I don't think a ball should shoot right up. I mean, I was not appalled by it, but I think we'll be fine.
I will say I would rather play on turf in a stadium like the Benz than on a baseball diamond at Yankee Stadium.
That's 12 feet wide.
Right. Exactly.
Shots taken at NYCFC. So
Deservedly so.
definitely. So talking about these stadiums, part of the reason that a lot of them have to bring in grass is because they're indoor stadiums. And a lot of these stadiums that have been selected, they opted for some of the more flashy, beautiful new stadiums. LA is the perfect example. They chose what's normally known as SoFi Stadium, but they take the ad names away for the World Cup. And because of that, there are no matches at the Rose Bowl, which some would argue is the best stadium the United States has to offer. What are your all's thoughts on choosing some of those new, beautiful stadiums and you're leaving out a Soldier Field, a Rose Bowl in Pasadena, things like that?
I mean, I don't care, truthfully. It's a soccer pitch. It's the same dimensions for the most part. Maybe the width will be a little longer or shorter. Maybe like I'm good with whatever. I mean, it's at the Benz here. That's the primo stadium to me in the country. I would love to see it at the Rose Bowl. A lot of memories there. Obviously, UCLA football, Rose Bowls. Wasn't that where the women won?
Yes.
Right.
And that's
And
where they
she
had the
pulled
final
off.
in '94 as
Right.
well.
So I would love to see it there, but to me, that's minutia. That's not anything that affects me in the end.
I'm kind of a history nerd, right? So I love a historic building. I love a historic hotel. I'm actually super looking forward to watching the games play at Azteca just because of the history that has gone on in that building. And then you're writing new history. So in that regard, I'm a little sad that some of the larger stadiums that have the kind of capacity that FIFA was looking for were overlooked for some of these more special games. Like I feel like you could have played, the opener at the Rose Bowl and then played everything else at SoFi.
That would have been pretty cool.
That would have been a way to kind of nod to it. But I also understand that in this day and age, people want creature comforts. They want hospitality. If you're going to sell a ticket for a match like that for $2,000, you better get your money's worth. So I can totally see why they wouldn't want to use older facilities that maybe have a lot of charm and personality, but don't have all the amenities that people are looking for. That being said, like you said, nothing beats the Benz. The Benz really is the best premier building I've ever seen for sports.
And I think some of those amenities that you're looking for, that could have ruled out some of these huge historic college football stadiums that I think some people might have been interested in hosting matches. They opted to put the final in what they're calling, I think, New York, New Jersey Stadium. It's MetLife Stadium where the Jets and Giants play. It's big. It's near New York City.
It's bad football.
No
normally.
one would ever say, no one would ever say it's the greatest stadium America has to offer. What do y'all think of that choice?
I mean, it's New York. I'm from New York. That's the center, whether you hate it or love it, of this country. You have New York, you have California, you have a couple of states that I guess are the premier states overall. And you can't complain about it being in New York. There's something about New York.
I would be inclined to agree. I don't think that there was anywhere else that you could have put the centerpiece of a massive global showcase in. It's either going to be LA or it's going to be New York. I'm kind of glad they did it in New York. I'm an East Coast girl.
The irony is, though, it's not really New York.
No,
Oh,
it's New
it's New
Jersey.
It's New Jersey, but we all call it New York, a couple of miles away. So
I feel bad for the fans trying to get out there and having to pay $100 each way to take Metro Transit or $300 to park there. Like, I mean, the logistics are there. I don't understand why all of this gouging had to go on. And it's disappointing because you're cutting off, a really, really large community that could have created a very special environment. And now you're having to segment it with, the way that they're doing their fan festivals in all 5 boroughs. And you're not getting, these big, pop up, just kind of random organic crowds coming out there or people surrounding the stadium to wish everybody well. Like it's kind of unfortunate that aspect of it has been priced out of the market for most people.
fun fact, I saw the Who there in 1989. True story. Took a bus there.
My dad's a degenerate Jets fan, so he's thrilled.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
now we'll see better football.
Exactly.
Exactly. Will Hopkins here on the Underdogs pod as we continue along, Justin Hanover and Jennifer Taylor. But as you talked about prices, definitely something we have to talk about is the ticket prices. I don't know what the right answer is because if people are going to pay the price, they'll pay the price. And if you made them too cheap, they would be gone like this. Bots would be involved, all those things. What do you think overall about ticket prices?
Disappointment. I feel like there's a lot of disappointment, and I feel like the aspect of it was really the way it's been handled has been with all these different drops and constant moving, manipulate, whatever. I feel like it's been very shady and very untransparent. I think if they had been transparent, they'd had blocks of tickets at sub $100 pricing, especially for some of the interior smaller cities, not like a Kansas City or even a Houston or up in Canada, Montreal. Like some of these cities could have been a lot more affordable. You have a much bigger tournament and this opportunity for more people to see the game and grow the game. I feel like you're missing out by telling, families that they can't bring their kids unless you have $2,000 in your pocket. That's not what anybody wants from the beautiful game. And that's not how the beautiful game is basically anywhere else in the world that you go to. So the fact that all of a sudden we're going to pay quadruple what they paid in Qatar, we're going to pay quadruple what they pay to go see a Premier League match, it doesn't sit well with me. And I wish that it had been handled differently and with some more transparency in that regard.
Justin?
It's unfortunate. It's sort of the way of the world here in 2026. I mean, it's an unfortunate reality. I hope supply and demand takes over the marketplace, and we'll see now in this next week, prices start plummeting.
Mhm.
And I'm sure there are people out there that have predicted it, that have said, I'm not paying $1,000 a match. I'm going to wait until that happens. And I hope it happens. I hope the venues are filled. I hope people are affording the right prices. And I hope sort of everybody wins in the end, except maybe the people who bought early thinking everything would be sold out and they overspent.
Well, it's interesting too, because one of the things, if you listen to Atlanta Soccer Tonight with Jason Longshore, which I'm a pretty regular listener of, he did an interview with the Telemundo coverage team who talked about what they want to see as the legacy of this World Cup, where they said they would like to see the money and the revenues that are being generated for these cities go back into the game so that there is a lower paywall for kids to get into playing soccer, lower than there is right now with the way sports are structured. So I'm hopeful that this, with all the fan adjacent things that are going on, there's going to be opportunity for people to catch that spirit in a way that can meet their family's budget constraints.
And without sort of, for a whole different subject for another day, you just sort of opened up one of the problems here in soccer in America. The pay for play, the trying to get in. Whereas in other countries, you obviously have the young clubs that they're able to get in for free, and these young poor kids, are able to play. And you just said in a roundabout way how here in America we almost need money to help these kids to get in there. That's one of the unfortunate situations here, and one of the problems in this country with the whole game.
And it was funny that you brought up like Premier League prices. One of the things I notice a lot on social media is fans across the pond complaining about ticket prices for a Champions League match that's £80, whereas here we're paying $300 to go to a college football game.
Right.
And it's just funny to me how the standards are different. Standards are different for travel. They think that a 3-hour road trip is insane, and for us, we're like, oh, that's very close for a match. And it brings me to my next point. We have this multi-country World Cup. We've got matches all across the coast, east to west, north and south, up to Canada, down to Mexico. And it causes for matches from noon to kicking off at midnight, maybe even 1 a.m. Do you think that the multi-country host thing is sustainable because it is planned for multiple World Cups after this? And what do you think of the match times that go along with this wide range of cities, which although even if it was only in the US, it'd still be coast to coast, but just the wide range of match times?
Oh, okay. I was going to say I can kind of speak to having done this, having been to Australia, which is huge. Australia is bigger than the United States. So I went to Australia for the Women's World Cup. We flew to New Zealand for the USA matches, then flew back to Sydney. When the women didn't get out of group, we tried to rejigger so that we could get to Melbourne for their knockout game. Didn't happen because it was too quick to try to make those arrangements. So it's a pro and a con because I think you get more people are able to access the surrounding atmosphere and ambiance and build on the excitement. But it's a con because you really kind of have to pick an area that you can reasonably, especially in the United States, where you can kind of base yourself and then get like within a drive. So if you're here in Atlanta, you can go to games in Miami, you can go to games, go to games here, and that's kind of it. Maybe Houston, right? But those are your little region, right?
Neither of those cities are still that close.
No, they're not. But like, New York, New Jersey is a little bit closer to like Montreal, Boston, that area, Philly, that area. So it kind of depends on what your goal was in terms of who you wanted to see. And I think the one way that it does hinder people is trying to pre-purchase travel in advance of the draw before you know who's going to be where. Right. And there were a lot of people that thought that the hotel and accommodation airfares were going to be more expensive. So they booked travel based on an area, not necessarily based on the teams that they were, coming all this way to see. But I think in the long run, because of the high cost of putting these events on, like that's going to be the sustainable model going forward because I don't know that there's any one country that can afford to put on an event like this.
I love the sport. Now, I may be switching gears a little bit here, but I love the sport. I love more matches. I love waking up. I love going to sleep to it. With all that said, I am still the old guy screaming at clouds. 48 teams is too many. It's watered down the product. It's a nice story to have Cape Verde in here. It's a nice story to have Haiti in here, Curacao. Is that what we really want, though? Are those the teams that should be in a World Cup? I don't know. I'll give you another opinion maybe in a month and a half from now. Maybe we'll have a great underdog story. But I do
Underdog.
think, yeah, there you go. It all comes full circle. I do think though 48's a bit much. I like the sweet spot where it was. And as for the three countries, to me, it's a little bit awkward. I don't mind it. I mean, I'm just not used to it. And it just feels like US, Canada, Mexico, just pick a host country and go with it.
See, I feel like the model would work better for what they pitched in Europe for the Women's World Cup, where it was going to be, I think it was Belgium, Germany, and Luxembourg or the Netherlands. I can't remember the three countries that were pitching it, but that to me,
Area.
smaller area, you can get everywhere by train. You can, Germany's going to be different, a little different from Belgium, but not all that different. But it's nice if you're going over there to see some different parts of the country, and I remember when it was in Brazil and like everything is kind of all, and Brazil's a huge country too, and everything was spread out everywhere. Again, from a fan support perspective, it's the logistics get a little bit overcomplicated.
And it's the complete opposite of what we had last World Cup in Qatar, where there was a guy, his name is Ben Black. He literally went to every match. Even when there were matches simultaneously, the country's so small, he was able to see one part of one match and go to another part of another, which obviously you cannot do in the United States. One more thing I want to get into is social media. 2026, huge part of the World Cup. I don't know how much y'all are on social media. I love X, formerly known as Twitter, and I think that this next month might be my favorite time using it that I've ever had. And I'll bring up 2 points. One, there is a German guy. His account is Freddy LA7 on Twitter, and he is exploring Georgia right now. He's gone to Stone Mountain. He's gone to Helen, which as a German he loved. He's gone on rafting trips on the Chattahoochee, Waffle House, Taco Bell, Wendy's. He's loving it all, but it's all so new to him and it's so cool to see. That's one side of it, the fan side. The other side, you've got the player side. The country of Argentina took this player from New Zealand, Tim Payne, who they found had the least followers of any player in the entire World Cup. And he is blown up. Absolutely blown up. How they made Spanish songs about him. So, two-pronged question. One, what can social media do from a fan perspective? And two, what can the world of social media and just the World Cup as a whole do to transform the life of a player who maybe has one amazing match, one amazing moment, and just make them a household name?
I talk about going viral. I mean, you have the goal the other day from Jedi, Robinson. That clip, imagine that in a World Cup final. How many views would that get? How famous would that guy get? So there will be people, even the lesser known guys, that do something. Maybe one guy will bite another player. We've seen that happen.
We don't need that again.
Right? And then suddenly that clip goes, bonkers. So I do think social media, the way these days it's blown up, I think that will play a big part.
I don't know if y'all saw that Fox hired somebody. They ended up hiring 2 people to sit in a glass box and watch every second of every match
That
in
was
the middle
real,
of Times
huh?
Square. Yeah, they hired 2 people last night. Unfortunately, they didn't pick me.
Are they going to sit there like they're on a Clockwork Orange with the little eye dilator and
I
the
don't
eye
know what they're
drops
going to
and
do, but they're going to have celebrities come in, and those people will definitely be big on social
Great
media, and it
marketing.
could change their
I mean,
lives.
that's great marketing that they're doing with that.
I hope they don't like sleep. Because with the schedule and like starting at like 9 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning with some of these going until like 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't know when they're going to sleep.
Check out the monkey in the room watching the game again.
We sleep in May. So as we start winding down here, most important question, what are your expectations on the pitch? Who are maybe your winners from the top tier, and then maybe somebody who you're not picking to win, but somebody that can make a run that people might not have on their radar?
I'll say the favorites are Spain and France, as I think everybody knows. They're not prohibitive favorites. I mean, I think it's an open World Cup overall. Not saying we're necessarily going to win it or a real underdog, but there are a bunch of teams that can win it. Who will win it? Spain, France, Brazil, Argentina, England, who knows? I'm going with, though, as a little underdog here, Erling Haaland, obviously, and Norway. They've been phenomenal. They beat Italy a couple of times. They've dominated everybody. He is an absolute beast. Get that guy hot. Who knows where they can go?
of theirs that went viral where they're doing this row thing.
that also.
And
It's
that
good.
looks like it's like the Viking clap that came out of, Iceland that we've all now stolen for all of our own purposes. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right that Norway is a team not to sleep on because they steamrolled through qualifying. It wasn't even a contest. I don't know. I as far as like I really like Panama because I feel like the CONCACAF chaos law is going to have to kick in a CONCACAF hosted World Cup. And that is a team that is just so incredibly unpredictable, that has some talent and oh, okay. I mean, they have a lot more talent than they're given credit for. And they really are out of if you take US, Canada, Mexico out of it, I think they're the best team in CONCACAF right now. And they never, ever have anybody talking about them. But they're fun to watch. Their fans are great. The culture's great. The beer is great. So, I'm all in. Let's go Panama, especially since my Ticos, sucked this quad.
So two super quick things. First, with Norway, they're part of the reason Italy is not in the World Cup. Sorry, Massimo, but I had to mention that. Two, I see what you're saying. The only issue is they've got France and Senegal in their group.
Tough group.
So it's a very tough
I
group.
know.
We are the Underdogs podcast. I have to ask the question, what would happen to our country and our planet if the United States somehow, some way, won the World Cup?
I really don't want to see what that hangover looks like at all. I would just not stop drinking to prevent that hangover. I feel like that's how that's going to go down.
I'll be right there with you.
Cheers, man. And I think it would be. I think it still would be, as much as you said, and I agree with the fact that we're already here at the very top of what soccer can be in this country. I feel like what it would do is it would put soccer on the same, I guess, visible recognition level that the NFL is here. I feel like that's what something like that would do.
For a couple of months, for a couple of years, permanent.
Maybe a year to 18 months. I don't think it would have, for the staying power to be there, you would have to get the domestic league to level up. And you would and maybe they will with rule changes and salary cap structures that have been under discussion. But I feel like you would get a lot more than just casual eyes on it. They would stay with it for a 6 to 18 month period, which I think at that point in time, your bigger names are going to be much more recognizable overall in the long run.
I think that's fair, but remember, the U.S. just won the Olympics for the first time in a while in hockey on the ice. And it was huge for a month, 2 months. Great stories, Jack Eichel. We don't really reference it that much anymore. It's not that big of a deal. Soccer would be the first that it's sort of done it. So I think it may have a little bit more of a bump in terms of time frame. I just don't know ultimately, eventually, how much that would give this country down the line.
I think you're also talking about winter versus summer sports. There's a huge gap in popularity, right? And in hockey, we'd done it before. We did it in 1980.
Fair, right?
We have never, ever been anywhere near it. Like, we've never sniffed at the door. Like, we've just been kind of down the block in soccer.
It would give a bump. But again,
Yeah.
my whole thing is 5 years down the line, would we benefit from winning in 2026? I don't know how much it would in the end.
Hopefully it's a conversation that we
Yeah,
end up
let's
having.
revisit.
Let's have
The
that
Underdogs
conversation.
podcast. Let's speak it into existence. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you all so much for joining. It's been a pleasure filling in for Massimo. And thank you for tuning in. Justin Hanover, Jennifer Taylor, cannot thank you enough. And everybody enjoy the start of the World Cup.